Hi, my name is Carl Shepard, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to share a shocking revelation with you. If you've ever watched one of those end-of-the-world type movies, then you must have seen what an empty supermarket shelf looks like. And if you're one of the many unfortunate people who are affected by a disaster of some kind, you've probably seen it in person. Now, I'm not saying that the world is going to get run over by zombies or that a deadly virus is going to cause chaos and panic, but localized catastrophe scenarios happen around the world all the time. And it's only a matter of time before an unexpected natural disaster like drought, hurricane, flood, or blizzard comes your way. We hear about them every day. The year 2011 has been dubbed as the extreme and exhausting year for the United States when it comes to natural disasters. From severe storms in Vermont, New Hampshire, or Massachusetts, earthquakes in Washington, D.C. and Virginia, to fires in Nevada and California, or Hurricane Irene that affected more than 20 U.S. states. In 2011 alone, FEMA has issued 93 disaster warnings in 1 year. In 2011, the United States were hit by top 10 weather catastrophes that cost us more than $1 billion. According to the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, total weather losses exceeded $35 billion in 2011. And that's not counting Hurricane Irene or the epic storm that hit the west coast of Alaska and reached the strength of a Category 3 hurricane, leaving widespread damage. So when we're not affected by floods, droughts, or blizzards like the one that crippled the Midwest and Northeast, we get earthquakes, wildfires, and tornadoes. And all these disasters have had an unfavorable effect on the economy and the rise of food price. When looking at FEMA's list of declared disasters by year, one thing that stands out is the sure and steep rise of natural disasters. From 59 in 2009 to 93 in 2011, almost 1.5 times more. Blame it on bad luck, blame it on global warming, blame it on whatever you like. The fact is that these natural incidences happen every day. And according to experts, it's only going to get worse before it gets better. It doesn't even have to be a natural disaster that prevents you from putting food on the table, because in times of economic uncertainty, like the one we're in now, civil disasters are a constant looming danger that we all live with, day in and day out. Already, the U.S. is affected by shockingly high food prices, and are going higher every day and expected to skyrocket by the end of the year. We are already importing more than a third of our food. And with the world economy as it is, meaning in economic turmoil, the price of imported goods have reached its all-time high. And when I say imported food, I don't mean the off-the-shelf, ready-to-eat products. I'm talking about grains, sugar, coffee, and the raw foods that are used to produce the items you find in supermarket shelves. Add the rising production cost to an already high import price, and you'll get an outrageous amount. And we pay for that every day. However, if you think our troubles stop there, you're wrong, because there is one more thing that makes food crisis a sure bet. The threat doesn't even have to be real. You'll probably think that I'm kidding or trying to scare you enough so that you'll take action, and some part of me would like that to be the case. Unfortunately, it's not. Even if the natural disasters or economic crisis doesn't affect you, another thing might. I'm talking about the end of the world predictions. Though these apocalypse-type scenarios are highly unlikely, they can affect our normal way of life and threaten the safety and health of your family. When people hear news about an impending threat, they tend to get into a frenzied mode and start preparing for the worst-case scenario by running to the nearest supermarket and stockpiling essentials. Even though at first no one really believes something like Armageddon actually is happening, 1 or 2 days before the predicted end of the world day, panic starts to consume everyone. That's just how the human psyche works, and no one can do anything about it. Remember Harold Camping's May 21st, 2011 prediction? No one believed it then. No one even took him seriously. However, on May 21st, in some places more than others, people decided to prepare for the worst and emptied out the supermarkets in their neighborhoods. Another highly publicized approaching apocalypse is scheduled for December 2012. People who believe in predictions of this sort have already begun preparing. And so should you. I'm not saying you should prepare because you believe in the end of the world, but what I'm saying is that you should prepare for December's panic that is going to break out as the date gets closer. If you don't, you'll be one of those people who stare at empty supermarket shelves with disbelief and shock. Before we move on, just let me explain to you why this happens and hopefully show you how you can spot the possible end of the world and normal way of life threats. When the media, TV, radio, papers, or internet announces a disaster warning, natural or end of the world prediction, the first thing that disappears and becomes pricey and rare commodity is food. In those types of situations, people are ready to run and step over just about anyone in order to get that last piece of bread or gallon of water. With everyone rushing to the same store to get as much food as they can, it takes virtually seconds to empty the biggest supermarket. And by the time you get to the store, the chances are that all the food has vanished off the shelves. Now, here's the tricky part. Though it takes minutes for a frenzied mob to clear out all the food in a store, it takes the supermarket days, and in some cases, weeks to fill them back again. So what would happen if a natural or civil disaster changed our normal way of life? What would happen if the people around you went into a frenzy mode and you're forced to fight over food so that you could feed your family? If you still think that there's no chance of a food shortage hitting the U.S., just think about the food rationing during World War II and economic turmoil of the Great Depression, which forced millions below the poverty line, and apply them to today, when the whole world is in a constant state of financial difficulties. Unfortunately, the unavoidable truth is that 90% of Americans are not prepared for the inevitable food shortage in an emergency situation. We are a nation used to indulging our desires and easily satisfying our daily biological needs. If you're hungry, thirsty, or in pain, you just go to the store and pick up whatever you need. What I'm offering you is a step-by-step preparation guide that will detail all the essentials you will need in order for you and your family to safely and healthily come out of a possible disastrous event. I'm offering you the solution of how not to be one of those Americans who didn't think ahead. If you have given any thought to survival, you know that food and water are the foundation of any good survival plan. If you prepare to provide these two items for yourself and loved ones, you are farther ahead than probably 90% of the public. Knowing food and water form the base of successfully enduring and preserving in times of crisis is a good start. However, if you don't know which food to get, or even worse, if you do buy the proper food and don't store it properly, it would be as if you hadn't done anything at all to protect your family. That's why, after months of research, I've compiled an extensive yet simple food crisis survival guide in which you'll find all you need to care for your family's nutrition needs during an emergency. Now, think about the next two scenarios. Number one, you've decided on your food shortage survival plan. You went to the supermarket and bought all the food your family will need for enduring a prolonged period of a food crisis. You've stored them away, but when the time came, you discovered that most of your food is inedible. Virtually anything can ruin the food you stored. Sun, rain, humidity, cold, or heat. Imagine the frustration you'll be faced with when you realize that your food has been eaten by bugs or rodents, or that it has gone bad because of a flaw in packaging. Not knowing how to properly store food is a common mistake people make. Number two, although you decided to prepare yourself for the imminent danger of a food shortage, you went to the store without planning out the meals for you and your family, and you bought all kinds of food with a long shelf life, but you haven't taken their nutritional values into equation, and you ended up buying dead food, meaning food with no nutritional value at all, and you're forced to watch your family get sick with malnutrition, nausea, or diarrhea. Believe it or not, more than 50% of people make that mistake. The main reason behind that mistake is that, as a nation, we do not put much thought into what we eat. And although that way of thinking causes obesity and other health-related issues, we can usually get away with that because in a normal situation, when your body and mind are not under an overwhelming amount of stress and when we have a variety of food available, we get the bare minimum of nutrients into our system. But what happens when you cannot go to the store, when the store is empty and all you have at home is dead food? Your body suffers and you get seriously ill. The worst possible scenario is the combination of the former two. Let's, for an example, take those completely self-contained meals used by the military, referred to as the MREs. You might choose to depend your family's food crisis survival plan on them. And don't get me wrong, when there's no alternative, MREs will keep you fed. However, there is an ugly truth about them that very few people know. And even if we disregard the high price of MREs, they are bland, bulky, low in fiber, and high in sodium and fats. They are dead food that is packaged in a retort aluminum packaging, which has been associated with Alzheimer's disease. Now, even if you disregard the danger of retort aluminum packaging, you would think that this type of food has very long shelf life. Not the case. The packaging is easily damaged by either cold or heat, leaving the meal useless and extremely dangerous to consume. So, if you for any reason choose to base your survival plans on MREs, make sure they are fresh and not from an older stock. Another problem with MREs is that because they are low in fiber, they will make you constipated and quite sick in the long run. It is shocking how many people spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on these MREs only to find out what a bad and dangerous alternative they are. Why risk the health of